being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. There's no quicker way to get into DFS. Play Super Draft today and see for yourself.
We're behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. That will be all right.
Happy Monday, everybody. This is Matt Caddell with Football University with Matt Caddell on this Monday. Happy Football Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Football University Monday. We had an excellent weekend. I hope you had a great weekend. Just want to shout out everybody. Hope they had a great weekend. Let's talk about a great, crazy weekend of football this past weekend. Shouts out to the student section. This is what we do on Football University. Me, Matt Caddell. We have the student section, Roll Tide Rolls. We got a couple RTRs. Listen, we're going to talk about everything from the crazy weekend, from the Super Wildcard weekend with the NFL, things I noticed, and we'll bring it back to college football. Georgia beat down TCU. And my disappointment is how I feel like Bama should have been in the college football playoff. I'm going to bring it back to Alabama. This is what we do. And we kind of got a little sentimental thing we're going to do at the end, discuss Ahmaad Galloway. So this is Football University. Thank you for joining us. Get in the student section. Let me know your comments, and let's go to our first topic. And when I want to talk about football, I love to start in the NFL. And let's start with the crazy Super Wildcard weekend. I mean, this past Saturday, let's start with coaching adjustments. Guys who I feel like needed to make great adjustments. And let's start with the crazy lopsided Jacksonville Jaguars game playing against the LA Chargers. And we know the whole Tua, Justin Herbert, the Chargers get in the playoffs. We'll talk about Tua later, but they're going against Jacksonville. And I don't know if you watched their game. Jacksonville, they won the AFC South. But the Chargers, they were rolling. You look at the game, the first half, they had Trevor Lawrence's number. Asante Samuel put on an absolute clinic. All you young DBs out there, go watch Asante Samuel, how he played against Trevor Lawrence. But he had three of those picks in the first half. And everybody was like, oh, this game's over with. The Chargers, Bosa was getting sacks. They were putting pressure, causing more turnovers. And Jacksonville, shouts out to Jacksonville. But I want to show you the opposites of two halftime adjustments. Doug Peterson, we already know Doug Peterson being a former high school coach and Super Bowl winning coach, running the Philly special with the Eagles. he's completely turned around that Jacksonville Jaguars team. So Duval, as they say down there in Jacksonville, shouts out to Doug Peterson. I mean, a big thing today, we're going to talk about coaches that make great adjustments. Being down 27-0, Trevor Lawrence having 4 picks, still sticking with Trevor Lawrence, not pulling the young first-round pick. Alabama fans, we have a love-hate relationship when it comes to Trevor Lawrence for what he did for at Clemson and Alabama versus national championship. But for him to go out there and stick with Trevor Lawrence, just showing the resiliency, Zay Jones offensively, Evan Ingram, the tight end, making plays, being able to win that game on the late kick field goal, a couple 4th downs. I got to shout Doug Peterson having that type of aggression, tenacity to win that game. And on the flip side, I got to give the Jacksonville Jaguars their credit. But on the flip side, Coach Staley, what a disappointment for you to be up 27-0 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars and not making the halftime adjustments, not being able to put that game away. I don't know. That's not a good, to me, that's not a good look. So bringing it back to Alabama, I think Alabama's going to need to find coordinators. We found the Pete Golden's going to Ole Miss, and so it's some names out there when it comes to defensive coordinators. But I think one lesson that we learned from the playoffs, the teams that are successful have great coaches on the offensively, defensive side of the ball, and they have good systems where they're able to be successful and win. So Jacksonville Jaguars, I got to shout out Doug Peterson and the Jaguars. And you thought that was just a crazy weekend. And we shift over to Sunday, and I mentioned Tua. So I want to go to talk about the Miami Dolphins. Tua, we just heard some good news regarding Chris Greer that Tua, he's gonna be the starter this year. And some things that we've said on Football University that Tua needs to work on, how he falls. Maybe, goes and get with somebody, studies film on how to take sacks where he's protecting himself and he can have a long career. But the Miami Dolphins, playing last Sunday versus the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills led by Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, they're emotional. Damar Hamlin, continue to hear great news about Damar Hamlin. So I do think when I do preview next week's game, I think the Bills play the Bengals. I wouldn't be surprised if Damar Hamlin's on the sideline, giving that extra juice for the Buffalo Bills, because they're going to need it against the Cincinnati Bengals. But, man, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and I want to shout out the Miami Dolphins. I thought these guys, some NFL teams showed that they had a lot of fight, a lot of no quit in them. Miami Dolphins showed that with a third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. Mike McDaniel was able to make enough plays for them to have the lead going in, was like 27-24 at one point. But shouts out to Josh Allen, the effectiveness. Although the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, he's so great, and they're 14-3. He still had a lot of turnovers. He had like 2 picks. I think he had a fumble. So I think he still leads a lot of turnovers, but I think the Bills are going to get that ironed out and get ready for the Buffalo Bengals. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Bengals are going to come ready to play. And just shouts out to the Dolphins for showing a lot of, hurt. I think if Tua plays that game, they probably win that game because of the turnovers. But I think, Miami, they get some issues addressed, they will be fine. So like I said, it's going to be interesting going to the playoffs. So let's get to the student section. Let's shout out everybody in the student section. RTR. We got a few questions. Trevor Lawrence throws picks in the first half. A lot of Chargers fans thought it was over. Yeah, I mean, I felt like, man, the Chargers let their team down. They had the game. Steven Hicks says, how much longer is Saban going to keep us in suspense about our coaching situation? I don't know. You know how Saban is. You think he's more methodical. I think right now he's trying to be a little bit more, methodical, doing a lot of things by wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. And, that's just how Coach Saban is, especially with I think he's waiting to make some announcements for some games starring Bill O'Brien. I think he's got his candidates for the offensive coordinator. You know me personally, if you're a fan of Football University here with Matt Caddell, you know I'm a big fan of Garrett Riley. Well, Garrett Riley's the OC at Clemson, and so he's out of the category. And so I'm high on Louisiana's Tulane's offensive coordinator. I think the guy really good at Jeff Svoboda, I believe is his name. He has a good system. He knows how to call within the game each drive, really keep defenses on their heels. So I'm high on him. And I really like Joe Brady. I know we were just talking about the Buffalo Bills, but man, you look at that offense, and credit to that offense, led by Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator, but Joe Brady being the quarterback's coach. I mean, for the Buffalo Bills to have all these turnovers, they're still 14-3. Like, I think Buffalo has averaged, I think Josh Allen has thrown like maybe, the past couple of games, he's averaging throwing at least one pick, but they're still 14-3 undefeated in the past like 4 weeks. So, if just imagine if they can iron out that turnover ratio, they're going to be a team to beat, and they're going to have to do it versus Cincinnati Bengals. And the reason I like Joe Brady, I'm high on Joe Brady. He had the success at LSU, but I think he will do good to put the pieces that we have offensively. And they take shots in the end zone. You look at Josh Allen, he's running it, but yeah, they're going to continue to sling it. Yeah, he might have a couple picks, but they're going to throw bombs. Stephen Diggs, Gabe Davis, and I like that attack, aggressive approach from my offensive coordinator. And to bring it back to Alabama, I would love to have a Joe Brady. So that are my two teams. And so let's get to the student section. 6-0 says, I think Coach Saban is really putting together a solid defensive staff to run his defense. SEC is no joke anymore. SEC teams wants a piece of Bama. Speaking of Coach Saban, let's park right there with Coach Saban. He was at the national championship watching Georgia in SoFi Stadium play against TCU. And, it's a lot of Georgia fans and it's a lot of TCU fans. And Georgia, I was a little iffy when it came to that game. I thought TCU was going to put a better show. But, I actually stopped watching the game after TCU threw that first interception. I was like, I was kind of disappointed in the matchup. I was like, the committee, this is what you really wanted us to do. And I think as a lot of Alabama fans, we're like, if Alabama was in the game, I literally think you put Bryce and these guys in the game, I think we would definitely be one of the teams that can only beat Georgia. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. Maybe I'm biased, but hey, it is what it is. But, Coach Saban, bringing it back to Coach Saban, him being there in that atmosphere, looking at Kirby, looking at his staff, looking how they dominated the Big 12 team in TCU for 4 quarters, looking at Munchkin calling a good game, just being dominant and having to be there, and then having at halftime David Pollock, say, hey, Coach Saban, Georgia's the king of college football. I think that scene did something to motivate Coach Saban. And like you said, 6-0, I do think Coach Saban's making changes. We talked about Pete Golden. What about Pete Golden going to Ole Miss? I mean, Alabama fans were, celebrating, but funny story, Pete Golden, they said Alabama offered him to come back, but Pete Golden decided to go to Ole Miss, which is interesting. But, I do think Coach Saban is putting together a really good defensive staff. I think, a lot of people are saying Pruitt, Glenn Schumann, but I think Coach Saban's going to get the right staff. He's got Coach Armstrong from Southern Miss, who I think is a great attitude, young coach that's going to be well for Alabama and the staff, and kind of, bring that identity, that physicality, the attitude, the toughness, somebody that really instills a lot of excitement and challenges you to be the best. I think Coach Saban's getting that type of mentality back on the defensive end. And I think offensively, he's going to get, I do think Bill O'Brien's going to somewhere, maybe with the Patriots. I do think he's going to be the next Patriots offensive coordinator. So when you hear that, I think you're going to hear Alabama's next offensive coordinator. So I wanted to touch the bases. Since we're talking about the national championship, and I know we got a lot of Alabama fans. I know we have all these Georgia fans in here last week. Georgia, they did what they had to do. Congratulations They brought it back to the SEC. Sad story about the kid and the staffer who passed after that game. So RIP to those families and thoughts and prayers. But, Georgia represented the SEC. And for me as an Alabama fan, I was like, man, Alabama should have been there. We would have won. But at the same time, it made me think about the SEC might as well. Here's my take at Football University with Matt Caddell. I feel like the SEC should just create their own playoff. Create your own 4-team playoff. Greg Sankey, you have the SEC championship game. Okay, you do that. We're going to know this year, we're going to know divisions. So the top two will play in the SEC championship. SEC will probably, since next year we're going to 12-team playoff, I do see SEC putting in 4 to 5 teams, easily 4 into the college football playoff, and I do see those 4 probably going to the Final Four. So at least 3 teams in the Final Four. But, my goal is, my take is, after watching that national championship, I thought it was 4 or 5 teams that could have played Georgia a lot tougher. 4 or 5 SEC teams. You look at Alabama, I say a South Carolina, a Tennessee would have put up a better fight. Maybe somebody like those teams right there, I thought would have put up a better fight than TCU. But back to my point, I do think the SEC should branch away and create their own playoffs. And we'll just say, hey, since we know the SEC is the number 1 conference, whoever wins that 14 playoff, we'll just declare them the national champion anyway, because it's not like the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the Pac-12 is going to beat that team. So that's my take on the SEC having their own playoffs. Let me see what you have to say about that in the student section. But, let's get in the student section. William Bryan says, I think Bill O'Brien is going to the Patriots. I totally agree. I do think Bill O'Brien is going to the Patriots. Like I said, I do think Coach Saban is going to bring in a really good offensive mind to really, put the pieces together, and we can develop our young quarterback and just really be effective. Me, I like Joe Brady for some. I'm just high on Joe Brady. I think he does a great job with his background with LSU, what he did with Joe Burrow and just taking shots, throwing deep balls. You look at all the talent we have receiver-wise, young Kobe Prentice, Bond, Law, Shaz Prestons, the guys, Ja'Cory Brooks, Burton, Hamilton, all the freshman receivers we got coming in. I would love to see that type of attack on the on our team next year offensively. So let's get to the student section. Shouts out to William Bryan, Todd Colburn, Jeff Stapleton, Lori Caddell. She says playing Bama is like the Super Bowl for other SEC teams. It is what it is. It's how it is, wearing that A, putting on that crimson jersey. Everybody's looking forward to seeing what Coach Saban is going to do. Let's see. So Jeff Stapleton says, my Niners are the bad guys for the NFL, 3rd time beating Pete and the Sea Chickens. Listen, let's transition back to the NFL. So we talked about the Jaguars and the Chargers, and we talked about the Bills and the fighting no-quit Miami Dolphins led by Skylar Thompson and everything. But the Bills pulled that out. But then Sunday, who I have to say, Saturday, Saturday, you look at the 49ers led by Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan. Listen, right now, looking off the Wildcard weekend, you look at San Francisco playing in Levi Stadium in San Fran, on the Bay Area. Listen, they're going to be a tough out. We know about the DeMeco Ryans-led defense, who is unstoppable. Nick Bosa led the NFL in sacks. Greenlaw, Fred Warner, all these guys. I mean, you look at that defense, but that offense is rolling. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, the way Kyle Shanahan uses his running games, compliments. One thing I love about Kyle Shanahan has he plays his players who's hot. Christian McCaffrey gets hot. He finds ways to utilize him, gets him the ball, but finds ways to get other players hot. And so he has an offensively game plan that really complements. So Coach Saban, if you know anybody from Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree, if you go the NFL route, Kyle Shanahan just puts on a clinic with Brock Purdy. Listen to that defense. Now, listen, it's going to be hard beating the San Francisco 49ers. I do think San Francisco, since in that NFC, since the Philadelphia Eagles has home field advantage, I do think the San Francisco 49ers are in that championship. And I do think San Francisco, what they can do, can go to the Super Bowl. Listen, that could be a tough out for Philadelphia. For Philadelphia, you look at the Giants. You look at the New York Giants, and we all know about Brian Daboll being the former offensive coordinator at Alabama, having a chance to meet him. But the way he's gotten his guys to fight, they've gotten healthy. But the way what he's doing with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas, that defense, Dexter Lawrence, Xavier McKinney, and one of his best hires is Whit Martindale, who is a defensive savant like a D'Amico Ryans, but he's going to blitz. He puts so much pressure on Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson containing him. I mean, the Giants put on absolute clinic, and I thought that they were going to win that game. And, everybody was just saying how the Vikings are frauds and, very disappointed by the Vikings. You win the North. But your first round exit, and the last play, Kirk Cousins doesn't throw to Justin Jefferson. He throws a short pass, but shouts out to Xavier McKinney, who put on an absolute clinic defensively. Young safeties out there, go watch how or young defensive coordinators, watch how Whit Martindale put on a bracketing clinic on Justin Jefferson, making sure they had somebody in and out on him. That's what we do at the football university. We break down the schemes and the schematics and the systems. So that's what we do. But shouts out to the New York Football Giants. And they have the Philadelphia Eagles this week, which I think, Jalen's getting healthy, playing. That game's going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people think. I think they are so familiar. A lot of these teams have just played each other a couple weeks ago, week 18, I believe. So that game can be a lot of tricky, but you look at the Giants. Do not oversleep the Giants. I mean, these guys are locked in. I saw a video of Saquon Barkley. They're on the plane ride back, and he's locked in watching film. So that just shows you what type of mentality Daniel Jones and these guys and Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka. Can I shout out Mike Kafka as an offensive coordinator? I mean, the way he utilizes Daniel Jones' legs and arms, playing the sticks. And I really like the Giants because they have a lot of practice squad guys. I was a practice squad guy. Daniel Hodges, former practice guy, he just got waived by the Buffalo Bills. But the GM, Bean, has a good IQ of evaluating talent. And most of your successful NFL teams, if they can evaluate talent, are going to be successful. And you look at the San Francisco 49ers, John Lynch, former football player, NFL Hall of Famer. He knows how to evaluate talent. Same as going for certain teams. You look at the New York Giants, and listen, they're going to be a tough out. So let's get to the student section before we get to the next topic. Let's go to the shout out to the Bama Standard, RTR, Bama Standard. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Please hit that. Let's see. Stephen Hicks says, I'm tired of Alabama having the soft candy defense. I have faith in Saban who will address it. And let's get the progressive offensive coach and bring back the fear. Yeah, I feel like last year, to your point, Stephen Hicks, Alabama was too predictable. And we didn't have that aggression where we were taking it to the team. We were letting teams like Tennessee, like their offense, dictate our defense. And we weren't making adjustments at halftime. So I feel like offensively, we've got to be able to get back to those days of Kiffin and Sark and Malcolm Wayne, where no matter what you put out on defensively, you're going to have to defend us, and we're going to put points on you. So I like that comment. William Bryan says, maybe we can steal Dan Enos back. Dan Enos is the current quarterback coach with Maryland, with Mike Locksley. I think Dan Enos is a great quarterback coach, but I think, with what we do have with Milroe and Ty Simpson coming back, I think we're going to need an OC and a quarterback coach, or whoever the OC needs to be a quarterback coach, somebody who can develop a QB. A lot of people were high on Cliff Kingsbury, but word on the street, Cliff Kingsbury is on a one-way ticket to Thailand, so it makes you think about the scene of Hangover 3, I believe. So hopefully he doesn't come back with the face tattoo and all that things. But Cliff Kingsbury, if you turn into football university, maybe give a call to Coach Saban, maybe. But listen, I heard a lot of NFL teams are interested in calling, trying to get Cliff Kingsbury to be their head coach. So let's get to the student section. The Bama Sandwich says that's essentially what the 12-team playoff will be. It'll be all SECs. It'll be all SEC teams in the Final Four, but how cool would it be if Greg Sankey said, forget this. We are college football. We are the standard. We're going to create our own 14 playoff. And it would have been, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU? You maybe could have mixed it up, maybe added South Carolina, Ole Miss, kind of game. How interesting would that be in the SEC? I just think the SEC playoff would be even more entertaining than the 12-team playoff. I mean, maybe I'm just SEC biased, but let me get your thoughts in the student section. Let's go to the student section. Let's see. Matt, what do you think of Coach Armstrong hire? I don't know if you heard me say so. I think he's a good, young coach, very energetic, very smart mind. I know when Alabama played Southern Miss not too long ago, you could see him on the sideline, just energetic. He had the defense in the right position, but he brought a lot of fire. And I think that's something that Coach Saban knows he needs. He needs more motivators, energy guys on the sideline to really get these guys pumped and ready to go, and kind of a disciplinarian, militant type of guy. So, I think Coach Saban's going to make the right decision regarding the defense. So we talked about the 49ers. We talked about the Giants. Let's talk about the Bengals. I know I tried to touch on them. They had a big game yesterday versus the Ravens, and the Ravens was like the Dolphins. They fought to the end. Even without Lamar, we don't have to get into Lamar's situation. I do think Lamar is going to, go into free agency and see who's going to offer him big money. But, the Ravens actually look like the Ravens. And but shouts out to the Bengals. They look sloppy themselves, but they got to go up to Buffalo and kind of play against that whole Buffalo game, where so much emotion with the Damar Hamlin situation. I do think Damar Hamlin will be in attendance at that game to kind of bring a little extra juice, happiness in that home field advantage, being up there in Buffalo, New York. Let's see. Tiger was, I think, punting the lit it. Yeah, I think Pollard kind of poked the bear with Coach Saban, man. I was like, wow, you can just see it on Coach Saban's face when David Pollack said, listen, Georgia's the king of college football. To his credit, I mean, Georgia did go back-to-back, so it is a lot of truth in that. But, Coach Saban really is going to take that and internalize it and use it as motivation to really get back Alabama to being dominant. So let's go. Let's go to the student section. Somebody 60 says Pollock and Feinbaum did spark the fire within Saban. Yeah. Hey, Feinbaum's been talking a lot of cash money lately. I mean, just talking down, even Stephen A. Smith, he loves Alabama. Roll Tide, Alabama, Stephen A. Smith. He's all about Coach Saban, but Feinbaum's been his biggest critic, but we know Feinbaum's a Vol guy, is a Vol alum. So I think with the success of Tennessee has just kind of brought out the true colors of Feinbaum, and he's going to take an opportunity to take shots at the GOAT, Coach Saban. So, but I think, like you said, 60, Coach Saban is taking notes. Elephants are real smart. They remember things for forever. So, Coach Saban's the GOAT. So hopefully Coach Saban's internalizing it. So let's go to the student section. Oh, Jeff Stapleton, I love this comment. Oh my goodness. He says, another game a Harbaugh brother choked in. I mean, let's be honest. The Harbaughs, let's talk about coaching disappointments. I talked about Staley was a disappointment from the Chargers. Who else was a disappointment? O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. You don't give Justin Jefferson the ball. It's just so many bad coaches. But the Harbaughs, man, it's like Michigan loses to TCU. And I'm like, how if Georgia put up 75 what was Michigan doing? Like, how did y'all let them just beat y'all? Like, so Harbaugh, he's coming out with points. He's interviewing for the Broncos. Then he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm staying with Michigan. It's all about Michigan." And then the other brother loses. So it's just, to your point, Jeff Saban, I like that. Spencer says, Matt, sorry to go negative, but what do you think about these colleges and teammates having to do to help players get into bad situations? I always say this, Coach Saban says, nothing good ever happens after 12 o'clock. So, find times to get rest, stay out of trouble. You want to have a good time, but, sometimes the smart thing to do is to be wise and use a little wisdom and stay safe out there and get back home safely, hang out with your teammates, make sure everybody's getting home safely. And if there is any crazy situation, let's try to diffuse it or anything like that. But just, I think the colleges are going to have mental health support for these guys. But, eventually you just got to, make better decisions. We have to make better decisions. And that's a lesson for all of us. Whether it's, certain situations we look back where, guys made better decisions, they could help themselves. So we all have to make better decisions. All to you young athletes out there, make wise decisions, make your A's, make your good grades, be a great person, show a lot of great character, but, make great wise decisions. So let's get to the next topic while y'all put your comments in the student section. We talked about the NFL. We talked about, let's talk about the Bucks and the Cowboys. Who y'all think is going to win tonight? And Bucks and the Cowboys, I might have to roll the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to find a way to pull it out. They got two good running backs, Pollard, Zeke. Tampa Bay mainly has Fournette, but they got Tom Brady. Mike Evans is rolling. Godwin, I think Julio. They get Ryan Jensen back. But I think the Cowboys might pull it out. The Cowboys are just scoring more points than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers only averaging maybe 18, 19 points a game. So I could see the Cowboys. I see a lot of Cowboys fans. We got some Bucs fans in there. I could see how that game can go, but it's going to be tough. But I do think the Cowboys pull it out. They're going to have to, because if not, everybody's going to be roasting them tomorrow anyway. So I do want to talk about halftime adjustments, disappointing coaches. We talked about let's talk about All-Pro. So we know the All-Pro list came out last week. And shouts out to Alabama. I mean, they just had DBU. I mean, Quentin Williams, All-Pro, D-Tackle, Minka Fitzpatrick, All-Pro safety, Patrick Surtain, All-Pro safety. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on. I believe C.J. Mosley, second team, All-Pro. But I do want to say Deron Payne was snubbed. Oh, my goodness. We all know how great Deron Payne was at the University of Alabama with Jonathan Allen. But this guy from the defensive tackle position, we could have easily had two All-Pros. Deron Payne had 11.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position. I believe that was on par with Quentin Williams. I believe Quentin had 12.5. But I wanted to shout out Deron Payne for out there making plays. RTR. To all of the student section out there. Let's get to the Jeff Saban says the Cowboys got too many weapons. They take their foot off the gas. It could be a shootout. My thing is the Cowboys, I think they need to jump on the Bucs early and just keep rolling. And as we saw this weekend, man, you better come with it for 60 minutes. You don't want to be like the Chargers, disappointing, choking the game away, So that would be interesting, but I do think the Cowboys might pull it out, I do want to talk about top assistants. I kind of mentioned D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans is a former player. I think he's all-world, very smart. Eric Bieniemy, Wick Martindale, Kyle Shanahan's offensive coordinator, who I think is really good, and Mike Kafka. The offense, New York Football Giants offense, what he's doing is just doing a lot of great things offensively. 60 says all these Alabama players in the pros, but yet some people call it Alabama dynasty days. And I'll add to that, 60. A lot of people calling Alabama players, oh, they're going to be bust. That's like the go-to thing. Oh, their quarterbacks don't do good. Okay, we got 3 in the league. We got Tua, Mac, Jalen. They always try to say, oh, their running backs don't do nothing. We got Najee, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, who is the top 2 running backs in the league. So Alabama is NFLU. That's what you do when you come to Alabama. You know, they just hate. There's just so much hate. And, speaking of college football, can I get this off my chest? So Georgia beat the living daylights out of TCU. Like, they put them – did y'all see the final rankings? They still had TCU ranked number 2. They had Ohio State ranked 3, I believe. No, Michigan ranked 3. Ohio State ranked 4, and they had Alabama at 5. I'm like, are you serious? And shouts out to Coach Saban for voting Alabama number 2. I mean, I would have had Georgia, my final poll, if I'm looking at it, what transpired. Georgia's number 1. TCU is like number 5 or 6 for me. I'm sorry. Ohio State, 2 losses. I'm putting them at like 4. Michigan got embarrassed. I could put them at like 5 maybe. So I go Georgia, Alabama. I'll probably put Tennessee at 4. I'll probably put Michigan at 3, Tennessee at 4, then Ohio State, then TCU. But I couldn't believe they had TCU still ranked number 2. So I don't know if it's SEC fatigue out there, but let's be honest. We got to get some of these sports writers or some people. Can we bring the computers back? Because obviously they are not using their eyes. I mean, just because they're in the national championship game does not mean they're still the number 2 ranked. They didn't even win their conference. So, oh my goodness. I mean, I just had to get that off my chest. Let's see. We talked about the playoff, but let's see. I did say I wanted to shout out Ahmaad Galloway. We will give we'll give a little interview and discuss about the life and celebrate Ahmaad Galloway because, once you know this guy was just such a charming person, energetic type person. So we will do that in a few. William Bryant. So we'll try to wind it down, but we will transition to that. Yeah, Stephen Hicks. TCU at 2 was ridiculous. I mean, it makes no sense. Off topic, Bama Sanders says, Matt, since you played with both, who could hit the hardest, Derek Pope or D'Amico Ryans? Oh my goodness. Man, D'Amico was just a little bit bigger and D'Amico was just more solid. And he, coming across the middle, it was intense for us young receivers, having to go against the middle, D'Amico, Derek Pope, Cornelius Wortham. Who else? Catch a slant route. Juwan Simpson. I mean, all these guys were trying, Terrence Jones, all these guys were trying to take our head off each and every day. So, but yeah, man, I would have to say D'Amico Ryans was the hardest hitting linebacker out of the 2. Derek Pope was just more of a you see him out when he take his pads off, man, he just set like this just Debo type of mentality. And we all know the movie Friday. It reminds me of the Debo, riding the bike. That's how he was in the locker room. So he kind of had that crazy Debo mentality. But hardest hitter, Derek Pope can lay hat, but D'Amico was just, he brought the thunder and the wood, as they say. Let's say, to answer your question, Van Edward saying, listeners the whole time, just want to say, George Roll Tide. This show is great. It's the hell of my brother. Thanks, Van Edwards. Thanks for all the comments. Like I said, I hope Bama's back. I was watching the national championship. I was like, man, if Alabama was there, our secondary, Brian Branch, but part of him was like, do they want to see another Pete Golden and Bill O'Brien play games? But, I just think we matched up so much better versus Georgia than any other team in the country. And we had that revenge factor. But, we didn't make the plays that we need to make, and we didn't get in. But if we had got in, I told you from a couple weeks ago, Bama would have won the national championship. But no room for shoulda, coulda, woulda here. It's about what you got to do now. So I do want to talk about, Ahmaad Galloway. Rest in peace, Ahmaad. And, we kind of want to end the show on a sentimental note, celebrating the life of Ahmaad Galloway. I'll just give you some stories about him, my personal experience. He was a brother of mine rocking the Crimson Tide. But he was older than me. I got there in 2003. He left in 2003. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos, and he was there for a couple of years. But, I was kind of always looked up to those Dubose-led guys because, you see them when you're young sophomores being recruited, seeing these guys like D'Amico, Derek Pope, Chris James, A.C. Carter. And you would see these guys and watch these guys. And, it was kind of starstruck kind of seeing them. And once I met him a couple of times, he just always had such a positive attitude. Giving you really sound advice about life, what to do, stay focused, making sure you go into class. He was one of those type of guys that was not only encouraging, but, held you accountable. And, somebody said, that Iron Bowl, versus DeBose, with him and Santonio Beard, rest in peace, Santonio Beard. I know we lost him last year, but they both had over 100 yards versus Auburn. They beat them in the Iron Bowl like 31-7. So, he was a solid running back. Like I said, got drafted, and I know, I kind of met him a couple of times. I crossed passes in Tuscaloosa, but another story I never forget meeting him when he was like coaching high school football, talking about his family and everything. He was just like, oh man, as soon as we talked about coaching, he was just like, oh, I used to do it, so much fun, da 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 da. And he just had that charismatic type of personality. So we're going to do a segment here, but I just want to show you about, this is the CTS Sports Room, and we're going to go to an interview of him back when CTS was just, very few, back in 2020, September, where's Joseph Lozada, my guy Joey, and Marvin Constant. And they said this interview is just such a great celebration of his life that, you're going to forget how funny, how that he's a high school teacher. Please hit that like, subscribe button. Thank you, Nick Saban Jr. But yeah, we're going to transition to that here shortly. But, shouts out to the student section. Van Edwards, let's finish up with a few more comments before we transition. Van Edwards says, "Man, respect to both men and their families, idolize both. Mental health is a big thing in this country. I will say this, appreciate your loved ones, hug, just love your family. I know this is MLK Day and Martin Luther King, all the things he's done, it's all about love, just loving people. So love your family members, hug your family members. And, you never know what people might be going through. But we're going to transition to this Ahmaad Galloway interview first here at CTS Sports Room. Ahmaad Galloway, rest in peace. We miss you, and enjoy this interview, and we will see you next week on Football University.
Ahmaad, meet Joseph Ahmaad, okay?
Ahmaad now. But yeah, hey, Joseph, how you doing?
Hey, Ahmaad, it's an honor, man.
I'm saying humbly. Hey, thank you. It's an honor to be here, Joseph.
You're in your car, right? You can take that mask off.
And he can turn on the AC because he's sweating like he's 1928. Come on, man.
Hey, I am in Florida. It is, it ain't going to cool down until about January. It ain't.
You don't have no hair, so you ought to be fine.
Well, that means I don't have it.
You lost that 20 years ago.
Thank you. What? No, longer than that. No hair. I ain't got nothing to catch it with.
Hey, boy, you showed up to college with that male pattern baldness. That
Hey, you showed up in college looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Man, I seen you working
Look,
out. I ran out the way. Stop looking at your hair. You handsome? All right, man, you working.
I still got all of it though.
I'm gonna catch you up. Okay, but you know what?
All right.
Book with all the secret recipes.
All right, man. So look, we gonna go ahead and get started though, man.
Because I told my wife, I said, you know, he kind of looks like a white. He kind of looks like a black Bam Bam from the flip side.
I think he looks like a white. I think he looks like a white Bam Bam. I'm colorblind.
That's why you ain't got no hair now. Yeah, see,
It doesn't matter. The color of my hair will matter if I had some. But anyway, let's go.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Marvin Constant Show. I'm here with my co-host Joseph.
Marvin,
Joe?
Marvin, I want to thank you for letting me be a part of this show on the CTS network. But I gotta say something, Marvin.
What's up, Joseph?
I'm happy. I gotta say two things. I'm happy football season is back, and I don't always hate trailer park, inbred, stuck up pieces of trash. When I do, they're usually Auburn football fans.
Well,
Wow.
I don't know. I think they're B fans. They wear that orange.
Well, guys, I guess you see tonight's guest, Ahmaad Galloway, former University of Alabama running back, former Denver Bronco. Hey, he took it upon himself. He just jumped right in. Hey, so we'll go with it from there.
You gonna leave the San Diego Chargers out of there? And that's my hometown.
San Diego Chargers. My bad.
I guess I was just on the practice squad, but I guess practice counts because practice makes what?
Oh my God! All right, so let's get into this and let's just get started. All right,
Talk about that championship belt he got on.
oh my God!
He got it on his shoulder, man. Make me think about Summer Jam or Battle Royal or Royal Rumble or I don't know, man. Let's go.
Let's go, Marvin. Let's do this.
Hey, let's go. We're playing at their spot. Don't care how many fans they got. Let's play them.
I'm trying. This is all right. So listen.
Let's go, Bama. Let's go. Marvin, you got on black. They say they wearing black that night. Who cares? Ask Georgia what happened the last time they called a blackout.
All right. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right. So let's get right to it. Ahmaad Galloway coming out of high school. Where you came out of Red Bank, right?
Man, hey, boy, if you don't quit talking about Victor Ellis.
No, because I know y'all. That's what I'm trying to get to. I know y'all played at multiple schools, right? Right.
I played at one. Hey, we played from 7th grade to 10th grade, and after our 10th grade year, which by that time we were planning, your road, multiple state championships like you had, but we didn't have.
But I'm asking so. But didn't you play at multiple high? Did you play at multiple high schools, or just one?
Just one.
Just one.
Victor played at multiple. He started out at Wildcard with me, and then he moved to Chattanooga. Okay, see, that's what I was trying to figure out, that whole dynamic of their relationship, because I knew you all knew each other for years. I just didn't know how they worked in high school. So I knew because of the military thing, there was a lot of moving going on. So I just didn't know the dynamics of who went to what high school. So after we met each other, I never moved again. He moved once more.
Okay. So in high school, what was that like for you in high school in terms of being recruited and the whole dynamics of that?
It was odd. Originally I'm from San Diego, California. I am a military child. Who said I'm a military brat? But I'll be a brat if you want me to. But I didn't play football until the 7th grade. I grew up rocking or riding skateboards. You dig? That's what we do on the West Coast. But I moved. Shout out to the West Side. There's some great running backs come out of San Diego. But anyway, ask Darrell Davis. I wonder how he got from San Diego all the way to Georgia. But anyway. I moved, and man, while in the South, kids they play football young. It's just, which, hey man, I never saw myself as a professional or even collegiate football player. You know, I just wanted to go to college. I grew up in the era where, you know, guys like Bill Cosby and, I mean, Oprah was talking about it, but, I mean, college, they said, if you went to college, you're going to be rich. That's all I heard. I mean, whether it was A Different World, Cosby Show, I mean, hey, I want some money. You hear me?
All right.
So I went to Alabama and not Alabama.
Well, that's what I want. That's what I wanted to ask you about. What role did your friendship with Victor Ellis play in you picking Alabama over your home school of Tennessee and other colleges that actually offered you? Because I'm pretty sure that
come on, now you call it Tennessee my home school? How about San Diego State might be my home school?
Well, I'm just saying in terms of the state that you were residing in at the time when you committed to Alabama. Did your friendship with Victor play a role in you picking Alabama over other schools?
Man, you know how to ask that question. Initially, I committed to Notre Dame. I just, you know, when they used to send those letters, man, you know, that helmet, you know, it just did something to me. It was a name, you know. I just like, man, Notre Dame? I am a smart guy. That might be a good place for me. But I also thought about Vanderbilt. Stanford had just fired Tyrone Willingham that year. So I was committed to Notre Dame. And, you know, again, you know, Victor is playing in Chattanooga by this time. But he says, hey, man, if nothing else, man, just come visit Bama with me. You know, they're the biggest school recruiting me. It's like, all right, why not? It was an unofficial visit. Man, Bama got blasted by LSU. I switched my commitment. Man, I had a great time. I saw the academic side of Bama. I mean, I fell in love, Mook. You know, who they be like, who you calling Mook? Man, I did. Which, you know, I'm somebody that's real firm on commitments. I don't like switching. You know, I just, you know, I was set. But, man, I went to Bama and I fell in love. I mean, not only, look, I'll be honest, during the visit, I forgot I was with my friend. You know, I fell in love. But at the end of the day, I knew being in college with him, we would be each other's accountability system.
Right. Okay. So going into Bama, your freshman year, you were redshirted along with myself. How did that red shirt motivate you moving forward to improve upon your craft to make you a more complete or a better running back?
It made me work, Moog. I mean, I was hurt. And, you know, I mean, just, you know, I had rushed for 2,500 yards back to back. You know, I just used to be in that bell cow, you know, and then, you know, so good. I mean, just people just have crazy expectations. I mean, first of all, me and Justin Timberlake are from the same high school area, okay? But, you know, they just follow me more. I don't know why I would follow him. That dude's loaded. But anyway, they're excited about football in that region. But, you know, I was ashamed when I came home, you know, which, you know, we still went to class. You know, the guys would travel. Mook, I go home. I put my car in the garage. I mean, I was hurt, you know. And then they'd be like, why ain't you playing? I'm like, you don't watch that number 37 run up and down that screen? But it gave me an extra year. It gave me an extra. It was tough, Mook. I didn't like it.
But, you know, it's funny you say that because it was tough. Because when they redshirted me, I was like, hold on. You're going to redshirt me? That's why every day in practice, I made it a point to shut practice down.
Ooh,
and I had the coaches mad every day. Talking about just let them run the play. No, I'm not going to let them do nothing because they're redshirting me.
That's what I used to do. They'd be like, do what the car said. I'd be like, man, get out of here. I'm going to do what my instinct tell me. Then I throw the ball up in the sideline. Just like
Coach Callaway and Ivy Williams used to stay mad. Like, just let them run the play. Like,
man,
nothing.
The coach used to stay mad at me. All I used to be was like, please don't put Marvin Carson in against me. I'm like, keep playing that other guy who left. Because my guy better than him. I'm glad he left. I always thought you were better than him.
Oh, boy.
And I mean that.
Ahmaad, y'all
Yes,
crazy.
sir.
Hey, you played backup to Sean Alexander, and in 2000 you traded snaps with Santonio Beard. My question is very elementary. Do you feel like you was capable to carry the team in 2000 as the main running back?
In 2000, definitely. In 2000, I had just come off my second 8A game MVP. I I'd won the I like the practice player. You know, they looked at starting a running back in front of me, which all of us are close that play together. So we know who we're talking about. We just don't mention names. But they started a running back in front of me that had missed the entire, off season due to academic reasons. And so, I had a chip on my shoulder. I just, won spring MVP twice. I was the first one to do it. Shout out to DJ Hall, who comes after me. I always like setting the tone. I love the practice. You hear me? Because that's where you get better. But anyway, practice makes perfect. So I just, I got tired. I felt very disrespected because I was a great academic student. I was everything that you would want to recruit. I had one rule. Hey, you can't offer me money. Man, my dad is a retired warrant officer from the Navy. I mean, he's done so much to me. I mean, for me, it would kill me for all that he's done for me if anything was illegal about the recruiting process. I mean, my dad was amazing. So that's why I was just like, hey, the only thing that'll turn me off, you can't offer me money. So, it was tough. Like I said, I redshirted, but I mean, things just worked out. Constant, you and I were roommates. Especially at the Orange Bowl. I mean, we motivated each other. We got through that year, and we played. It was tough, but yes, I thought I was prepared to carry the team that year. The next year, I thought I was prepared, but I also saw where it would be better if we split time. We had moved to a new offense under Franchoni. We were in a shotgun position most of the time. Santonio Beard was an awesome back in terms of speed and being able to cut. I mean, he's my buddy, but I thought he was a better shotgun back to me.
Well, in your junior year, you rushed for 230 yards against Vanderbilt. And might I add, you also ran 130 yards against that team that nobody likes. Do you feel like that was your coming out year, the following year, your junior year?
Well, my senior year, I thought it was a little bit better, where people might have got excited. And I showed a glimpse. I mean, I had a real good junior year. My father sat me down. Oh, yeah, he did. We were walking around the apartment complex. He says, if you don't turn it on, that guy behind you, he's honest. He said, he don't catch you. He said, you're playing like you got things on your mind. So that next year, I'd already set the tone. I mean, whether it was the first game, second game, Middle Tennessee State, up until the third game, I was like, hey, look, I want to be the lead dog. You go get it the next year, Santonio. So the first three games, I came out like I don't want to split any time. Because when I split time with him, he outrushed me in the Iron Bowl. We love to tell that story.
All right. Now, as you move through your career, you talk about elevating your game, taking it to that next level. So my question is, what lessons did you learn from Shaun Alexander that impacted or made you think differently about the way you played the game?
Well, Shaun Alexander ran for 290. What? Come on, guys. 290. Everybody knows the LSU game. He ripped LSU apart, and the very next week he didn't start. But there were some things that Shaun needed to work on in his game. And the guys in front of him were good. They were complete backs. It just reminded me at my first game against Vanderbilt. I'm thinking I'm all good, and I'm like, man, especially since the first play, that I got the ball. Ivy Williams looks at me and says, can you do it again next week? Man, listen to me. Shaun Alexander ain't starting next week after them 290-something. I was like, hey, man, I want to be a complete back. I want to catch the ball. What people don't know about Shaun Alexander, great blocker. Great blocker. He got decent hands. We all just give us the ball. Me, my Reed, we ain't got great hands, but we'll work on them or we ain't going to play. My Reed was a great back. We were fighting for time. Hey, don't forget about Auburn Richard. He's a squirt, but he played in front of us. He's tough. He blocked. He'd catch. So, just made me work. I just wanted to be a complete back.
Right. Okay. Now, you suffered an injury. When you suffered that injury, how did that impact you in terms of your overall mental state and your confidence when it came to playing the game?
Well, I mean, if you go back and see, because it's all about the moment, you know, I really didn't know I was hurt. I could tell, but, you know, I was like, man, let me shake this off. So after not being able to shake it off, because, I mean, we were at a pivotal point in that game. I mean, we were really ready to put Southern Miss away. It might have been, you know, about the end of the third quarter. You know, so when that happens, you know, we were getting ready to score. You know, when that happens, I'm like trying to run it off. I'm like, man, just let me go ahead and score this touchdown. And the fact that, you know, after jogging it off, I couldn't, you know, I cried. I mean, it hurt for that moment. But as soon as I got in that locker room, I was like, man, now the stress is gone. You know, I can relax, you know, and now all the pressure's gone. Because, you know, that year I had walked into a grocery store and just seen me on the cover of a magazine. I'm like, I used to ask Freddie Miller all the time. I'm like, man, am I good enough to play in the NFL? I mean, I wanted a college degree. I was not thinking about the NFL. I mean, it shocked me. I walked in there, you know, and it was Lindy's magazine. You know, normally those covers are shared with two players. Man, I saw myself on there by myself. I was like, wow. So, you know, I never really wanted to play in the NFL, especially not for a career. So I was like, man, well, at least I'm hurt now. You know, ain't nobody going to have all these expectations. But lo and behold, I still get drafted.